With Radio Algeria International, you will not miss a single major political or economic event. Radio Algeria International, our voice in the world.
This is the English service of Radio Algeria International. It's time for the news.
Hello and welcome to Radio Algeria International. In today's top stories, here in Algiers, the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, has presided over a ceremony to award ranks and medals to general officers and senior officers of the National People's Army. A large Venezuelan ministerial delegation is in Algiers to take part in the 5th Algerian-Venezuelan Governmental Commission or Joint Commission on Cooperation in Various Fields, due to start today. The Palestinian resistance movement Hamas is discussing proposals for a ceasefire in Gaza as the Israeli occupation killed over 80 Palestinians and has issued a new forced displacement order for areas inhabited by 80,000 Palestinians in Khan Yunis. Hello and welcome to Radio Algeria International. I'm Jamal Samani. The President of the Republic, Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces, Minister of National Defense, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, has presided over the ceremony to award ranks and medals to general officers and senior officers of the National People's Army at the People's Palace here in Algiers. This is organized to mark the 63rd anniversary of the recovery of national sovereignty. The ceremony was attended by senior state officials, members of the government, senior officers, as well as national figures and mujahideen. Upon his arrival at the People's Palace, the President of the Republic was greeted by the Minister Delegate to the Minister of National Defense and Chief of Staff of the National People's Army, General Saeed Shangriha. As you followed in our top stories, a preparatory expert-level meeting which brought together experts from Algeria and Venezuela representing various ministerial departments has been held in Algiers ahead of the 5th session of the Algerian-Venezuelan Joint Governmental Commission on Economic, Commercial, Scientific, Technical and Cultural Cooperation scheduled for today, Thursday. On the occasion, President Abdelmajid Tebboune has received in Algiers the Venezuelan Minister of People's Power for Productive Agriculture and Lands, Mr. Julio Cesar Leon Heredia, who delivered a letter from President Nicolás Maduro. The details.
Speaking after the meeting, Mr. Heredia expressed on behalf of President Maduro and the Venezuelan people gratitude to Algeria for its effort to strengthen ties aiming to promote prosperity for both nations.
On behalf of the President of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, and the Venezuelan people, we extend our sincere thanks to His Excellency the President of the People's Democratic Republic of Algeria, as well as the entire Algerian government, for their efforts and initiatives to strengthen relations between our two countries, with the ultimate goal of promoting prosperity and progress for the two friendly peoples of Algeria and Venezuela.
As part of this 5th session of the Algerian-Venezuelan Joint Governmental Commission, Algeria and Venezuela held several high-level meetings to boost cooperation in key sectors. In environment, ministers discussed expanding collaboration on sustainability, climate change and training. In agriculture, both sides explored ways to deepen ties in farming, trade and scientific research, agreeing to draft a joint action plan. Energy talks focus on strengthening cooperation in hydrocarbons, renewable energy and mining, while reaffirming coordination within OPEC and the gas exporting countries forum to help stabilize global markets. The expert-level meeting, co-chaired by Algerian and Venezuelan officials, focused on boosting bilateral cooperation. The Director General for the Americas at the Algerian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Hashmi, stressed both countries' commitment to enhancing economic and trade ties to match their strong political relationship and called for the swift creation of a joint business council. He described their partnership as a model for South-South cooperation. For his part, Venezuelan Deputy Minister for Africa, Mr. Pimentel, emphasized the deep historical ties and shared international stances, especially on Palestine and Western Sahara, praising Algeria's regional leadership. Both sides expressed the need to strengthen their strategic and comprehensive relationship.
Now, the Turkish Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Burhanettin Duran, now on official visit to Algeria as part of the second session of political consultations, has been received by the Minister of State in charge of Foreign Affairs, the National Community Abroad and African Affairs, Mr. Ahmed Attaf, and the Secretary General of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the National Community Abroad and African Affairs, Mr. News3 as well. More with Masoud Sharfi.
During a meeting which was an opportunity to review the outcomes of the second session of political consultations, Mr. Attaf and the visiting Turkish official highlighted the major achievements made in strengthening the Algerian-Turkish partnership, particularly in the economic sectors, stressing the need to intensify joint efforts to achieve the goals set by the leaders of the two countries, President Abdelmajid Tebboune and his brother President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, in anticipation of the upcoming session of the High-Level Strategic Cooperation Council. The meeting also addressed regional and international issues of common interest, particularly developments concerning the Palestinian cause, as well as the situation in Sahel-Saharan region. Earlier, the Secretary General of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and National Community Abroad and African Affairs, Mr. News3, has co-chaired alongside the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Turkey, Mr. Burhanettin Duran, the second session of the Algerian-Turkish political consultations. On this occasion, the two sides hailed the strong historical ties between Algeria and Turkey, reviewed their political and economic partnership, and explored ways to boost technical and investment cooperation. They also exchanged views on key regional and international issues, noting shared positions on developments in Palestine, the Middle East, Western Sahara, and the Sahel-Saharan region.
Mr. Attaf has received a phone call from the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Poland. The call made it possible to review the different axes of the relations of friendship and cooperation between the two countries and to examine ways to breathe a new life into them in view of the visit of the Polish Foreign Minister to Algeria, scheduled for the second half of the current year. On this occasion, the two ministers exchanged views and analyses on regional and international issues, including the situation in the Sahel-Saharan region. Now, the Algerian parliamentary delegation taking part in the 32nd session of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, which continued its proceedings on Wednesday in Porto, Portugal, has reaffirmed Algeria's principled and unwavering commitment to the Palestinian cause. More details in this report by Said Bougazi.
During the presentation of the report by the Political Affairs and Security Committee and the Human Rights and Democracy Committee on the ongoing violations of the rights of peoples under occupation, MP Omar Terbak spoke in support of a proposal made by Italian MP Anna Bellotti, who suggested that the organization adopt a clearer and firmer position on the suffering of the Palestinian people by establishing a joint parliamentary mechanism within the OSCE to monitor and document violations committed by the occupation and work towards concrete measures to put an end to them, the same source said. The Algerian parliamentarian underlined Algeria's principled and consistent commitment to the Palestinian cause, arguing that positions in favor of the law must be translated into concrete actions in international forums rather than being limited to mere verbal denunciations. He also recalled the daily suffering of the Palestinian people in the occupied Palestinian territories, calling for the Palestinian cause to be included among the organization's priorities. At the opening of the debates on the growing impact of climate change on human security in the Euro-Mediterranean region and the need to involve countries such as Algeria in joint efforts to combat desertification and challenges related to food and water security, the Algerian delegation expressed its interest in this topic given the national efforts made in Algeria to address climate change, particularly in the southern regions affected by the effects of French nuclear explosions. Through this participation, the members of the Algerian parliamentary delegation reaffirmed their commitment to diplomacy that is concerned with defending just causes, foremost among which is the Palestinian cause, while ensuring the strengthening of cooperative relations with the various member states in the service of the principles of peace, development, and international justice.
Now to the Middle East. Medical sources said that 80 Palestinians have been killed since dawn on Thursday as a result of the Israeli shelling of various areas of the Gaza Strip. The sources added that among the slain people were 28 citizens who were waiting for humanitarian aid in the central and southern Gaza Strip. Meanwhile, the Palestinian resistance movement Hamas has said that it is discussing proposals for a ceasefire in Gaza received from mediators who are leading indirect negotiations with the Zionist entity. More with Amina Burisha.
Hamas said in a statement, quote, "We are demonstrating a high sense of responsibility in conducting national consultations to discuss the proposals sent to us by our mediator brothers in order to reach an agreement guaranteeing an end to the Zionist entity's aggression and urgent aid for our people in the Gaza Strip," end of quote. In reaction to the ongoing negotiations, the representative of the Hamas movement, Youssef Hamdan, had this to say.
The movement is dealing seriously and responsibly with the ongoing talks to reach an agreement that will stop the aggression against our people. In this context, we have followed the statements made by US President Trump and will of course study the proposal he's talking about within the movement concerned and with the other resistance factions. The talks are of course continuing with our Qatari and Egyptian brothers, the mediators. We are interested in reaching an agreement as soon as possible, as long as it achieves a permanent cessation of aggression, a total withdrawal of the occupation and the opening of the crossings to ensure the entry of aid and supplies for the removal of rubble and reconstruction, with clear guarantees that the agreement will not be violated and that there will be no renewed aggression against our people. If these rights are included in the agreement and the proposal presented, or in any outcome of the negotiations, we will have a comprehensive agreement that includes a serious exchange deal. In parallel with this, the occupation continues its killing, torture and starvation, and even escalates its criminality at this particular time, with the aim of causing as much destruction and killing as possible.
The proposals currently being studied by Hamas mention a 60-day truce, during which half of the Zionist hostages still alive would be released in exchange for a number of Palestinian prisoners, according to a Palestinian source close to the negotiations.
The Organization of the Islamic Cooperation has condemned calls made by Zionist occupation officials for the annexation of the occupied West Bank, considering it a blatant violation of international legitimacy and international law. In a statement published on its website, the OIC warned against the seriousness of these calls and the continued incitement by the leaders of the Zionist occupation and extremist settlers against the Palestinian people, their land and their holy places. In another reaction, the head of the Arab Parliament, Mohammed al-Yamahi, expressed his strong condemnation and rejection of the dangerous statements issued by officials in the Israeli occupation government, in which they explicitly called for the annexation of the West Bank and the imposition of the Zionist sovereignty over it. Masoud Shafi again.
He said this is a flagrant violation of international law and relevant international legitimacy resolutions, and an attempt to undermine all opportunities for a just and comprehensive peace based on the two-state solution and an end to the occupation. In a statement issued today, the head of the Arab Parliament stressed that these statements reflect the colonial expansionist approach pursued by the occupation government, stressing his rejection of its blatant violations in the West Bank, including raids, arrests, the expansion of illegal settlements, the escalation of military attacks, the demolition of homes and infrastructure, and the displacement of citizens. He also expressed his rejection of the escalation of attacks by extremist settlers against civilians in the West Bank under the protection of the occupation forces, coinciding with the genocidal war in the Gaza Strip, aimed at eliminating all aspects of life and targeting the Palestinian presence. He renewed his call on the international international community, especially the Security Council and the United Nations, to assume their legal and humanitarian responsibilities and take urgent action to hold these systematic violations, hold those responsible accountable, provide international protection for the Palestinian people, and support their legitimate struggle to establish their independent, sovereign state with Al-Quds as its capital. This is the only solution to achieve a just and comprehensive peace that guarantees security and stability in the region.
The United Nations said that the Israeli occupation forces have issued a new forced displacement order for neighborhoods inhabited by 80,000 people in Khan Yunis, south of the Gaza Strip, noting that approximately 85% of Gaza's territory is currently subject to displacement orders. UN spokesperson Stefan Dujarric said during a press conference the occupation has issued a new forced displacement order in Khan Yunis, Gaza, where 80,000 people live.
Up to 80,000 people were estimated to be living in these neighborhoods. Approximately 85% of Gaza's territory is currently either under displacement orders or located within military zones, which is severely hampering people's access to essential humanitarian support and the ability of aid workers to reach those in need. Our colleagues on the ground tell us that who are working on water, on sanitation and hygiene issues, also tell us that Al-Satar, which is a key water reservoir, has become inaccessible as a result of the order. The facility serves as the main water distribution hub for Khan Yunis. Any damage to the reservoir could lead to a collapse of the city's main distribution water system, with very grave humanitarian consequences.
The UN Special Rapporteur on the situation of human rights in the occupied Palestinian territories, Francesca Albanese, has deplored in a new report published this week that companies, including major arms manufacturers and technology giants, are supporting the genocidal campaign waged by the Zionist occupation in the Gaza Strip. Said Bourazi has the details.
Francesca Albanese cited more than 60 companies in the report, including major arms manufacturers and technology companies, denouncing their involvement in supporting the settlements and military aggression in Gaza, which she describes as a genocidal campaign. The report examines the economic machinery of companies that support the Zionist colonial projects of displacement and replacement of Palestinians in the occupied territories. It calls on the companies named to cease their trade with the Zionist entity and demands legal accountability for the leaders involved in alleged violations of international law. This document, based on more than 200 contributions from states, human rights defenders, companies and academics, complements the UN database on companies linked to Zionist settlements, last updated in June 2023. It is to be presented today to the UN Human Rights Council, from which the Zionist entity and the United States withdrew earlier this year. While life in Gaza is literally being destroyed and the West Bank is undergoing increasingly violent attacks, this report shows why the ongoing genocide continues, because it is profitable for many, Albanese writes in the 27-page document. She accuses the companies involved of being financially linked to apartheid and Zionist militarism.
This is Radio Algeria International. The global economy stands at $450 trillion. Just 1% of that would finance the Sustainable Development Goals, explains Marcos Neto, Assistant Secretary General in the UN Development Programme. Speaking at the International Conference on Financing for Development in Sevilla, Spain, he says that its outcome document, the Compromiso de Sevilla, is a strong start to addressing this.
Look, we are 5 years away to the end, the timeline of the Sustainable Development Goals. The goals are off track. One of the major obstacles has always been the financing. The problem of financing the SDGs or financing the Paris Agreement is not a lack of money. The global economy, is around $450 trillion. The gap to finance the SDG is $4.2 trillion. That's 1%. The problem is alignment. And I think the Compromiso de Sevilla gives us a good way to start to say to everybody on the streets, we've got a problem with money, not because we miss money, because we actually have to create the enabling environment, the conditions by which money will flow differently. And that's what we can do.
Let's recall that the International Conference on Financing for Development in Sevilla, Spain is to wind up today, Thursday. This is Radio Algeria International. Thank you for listening.
Our Talk. A weekly program with guests activating in different fields.